Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to take some pretty complex behavioral science and, well, turn it into a kind of ultimate shortcut, for understanding why some conversations just flow and why other times, honestly, it feels like you're talking to a blockhead.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We are diving into a framework, it's pretty well known, built on the DISC method, but we'll use the simpler labels, red, yellow, green, and blue. The idea is to give you the tools to stop, guessing why people act the way they do and actually start communicating effectively on their terms.
Yeah, exactly. The mission really is to shift that frustration, that feeling of being surrounded by idiots, into something more like clarity, understanding that people are just different. There's this great foundational story about an entrepreneur. He genuinely, truly believed his entire staff were idiots, just lacked common sense. But what he was missing, and what we're going to explore, is that his definition of idiot was basically anyone who didn't think or act exactly like him. Wow, that's harsh. But I bet a lot of people can relate to that feeling, even if they wouldn't say it out loud. And this is where that's really interesting, isn't it? The key insight. Communication actually happens on the listener's terms. You can't really change how someone else processes information, but if you tweak your style, well, you suddenly become much more effective.
Precisely. And, while we're focusing on this modern sort of actionable framework, it's amazing how old these patterns are. People have spotted these four types for centuries. Think Hippocrates and his four humors: choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, melancholic.
Oh, right. Red, yellow, green, blue kind of maps onto those, doesn't it?
It does, roughly. And even the Aztecs had four elements mapping similarly. So we're basically giving you the modern tools to recognize and adapt to these really ancient behavioral truths. Okay, so to start, the whole model really hangs on two simple axes, like two dimensions of behavior. First, is someone primarily focused on the task, getting stuff done, or are they more focused on relationships? And second, are they generally active extroverted, or are they more reflective, kind of passive introverted?
Got it. Task versus relationship, quick versus reflective. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the quick ones first. The people who kind of hit the ground running. That would be the red and yellow types, right?
Exactly. Let's start with red. They are quick and task-oriented. Think driver, winner. They're energetic, super efficient, very clear communicators. And they are laser-focused on results, on the bottom line. For a red, quick basically means good. Speed is competence. They're competitive, too.
Oh, yeah. Competitive how?
Well, they enjoy winning, even if it's like a totally non-existent competition. The source mentions the CEO.
Ah, the workplace soccer tournament guy.
That's the one. Made it ridiculously intense, apparently flattened opponents. Just because, in his head, if there's a tournament, he has to win. It shows how much they value action.
Okay, so that drive translates into their communication style, too, I imagine.
Absolutely. Very abrupt. Straight to the point. They hate sluggishness, they hate wasting time, and they really hate getting bogged down in details. And because they often genuinely believe they know best, they can develop this real need for control. Control over people, specifically, to make sure the result happens their way.
Wait a second, though. If they're all about results and efficiency,
Right.
isn't that sometimes just, good leadership, decisive? Where does it cross the line?
That's a great question. It crosses the line when it starts alienating everyone around them. The issue often comes up because they tend to use the I form a lot. I need this, I think that, which sounds fine to them, but...
But to others, maybe the relationship-focused types, it sounds aggressive.
Yeah.
Impatient.
Exactly. Especially greens. They hear it as controlling, maybe even belligerent. So that strength decisiveness turns into a weakness when they don't factor in the human element.
Okay, makes sense. Now, what about the other quick type? The yellows. They're quick, but relationship-oriented. The entertainers.
That's them. The enthusiasts. Yellows are generally jovial, really optimistic, fantastic communicators in a social sense, very relationship-focused. They're spontaneous, always finding the silver lining, like that friend who's happy it's raining because, hey, the sun will probably come out later.
I know people like that.
And they are amazing motivators. The source talks about someone who could get salespeople so hyped up they'd practically jump out the window, ready to sell anything.
Okay, so they thrive on connection, maybe a bit of flattery, but that strong ego, loving the spotlight,
Yeah.
that's got to have downsides.
Oh, definitely. Big ones. They tend to talk a lot. And they can be notoriously bad listeners.
The ears not connected to their brain, comment from the source.
That's the one. It sounds harsh, but it highlights their struggle. Their attention span can be limited. They hate details, hate structure. I remember reading about a sales manager who took up nearly 70% of the talking time in the meeting.
Wow!
When he only had 1 point out of 19 on the agenda.
Yeah.
And the punctuality thing is Classic.
Yes, always just a few minutes late.
When it was really 40 minutes.
Yeah.
They genuinely don't register the same way because for them, the relationship, the fun moment they were having before, that's what matters, not the boring details of the clock.
Okay, so after all that high energy and maybe chaos from the yellows, let's shift gears. Let's look at the folks who maybe slow things down a bit, prioritize harmony or structure, the reflective types. That's green and blue, right?
Exactly. Let's start with green. They are reflective and relationship-oriented, the steady supporter, the harmonizer. And interestingly, statistically, this is the most common profile around the world. They're generally calm, incredibly easygoing. Their main drive is to fit in, to maintain harmony, and they will avoid conflict like the plague. It's always team before self for them.
Right, they're the super reliable colleague, the one who never forgets your birthday. And they're genuinely good listeners, aren't they?
Excellent listeners.
Yeah.
Because they really care about the group's well-being. Like that example of the colleague who was literally freezing outside the office.
Oh, yeah, but called someone else first to ask about their boiler problem.
Exactly. That's classic green.
Mm-hmm.
But that passivity, that focus on others, that's also their biggest hurdle. They aren't typically motivated by taking initiative themselves, and they can be almost paralyzed by change or the unknown because it threatens that stability, that harmony they crave.
Predictability is huge for them then. Like the guy who needed the exact same chair at lunch every single day.
Yeah, or his whole day was basically ruined. That need for stability is core.
So that passive nature, it's interesting. When criticized, they don't lash out like a red mite. What do?
Well, they tend towards silent resistance or seeming indifference. They might just dig their heels in on established ideas. And if they suppress those feelings for too long, like Helena's husband in the example, who just sulked for days, that frustration turns inward.
Right. But what's the long-term impact of constantly avoiding conflict, constantly swallowing frustration?
Burnout. It's a huge risk for greens. They absorb so much of the group's emotional tension trying to keep everything smooth. Combine that with internalizing their own frustrations. They just run out of steam. So while they might seem stubborn or indifferent on the surface, often they're just completely exhausted from prioritizing the group over themselves.
Okay, that paints a clearer picture. Now, the last one, blear, reflective but task-oriented. The perfectionists, the analysts?
That's right. Blues are driven almost entirely by quality and accuracy. Their whole world is about analyzing, classifying, evaluating, assessing before they act. They tend to be unassuming, quite modest, even about having vast amounts of knowledge.
Like the friend who knows the exact coin toss stats for the last 50 Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah.
Or can quote chapter and verse from the manual.
Exactly. That's blue territory. Sticking to rules, procedures, documentation, that's paramount.
But that obsession with detail, that must lead to problems too, like getting stuck.
Totally. Decision stagnation is their biggest struggle. Like the CEO needing 300 pages of data, down to the coffee break schedule, before making a strategic call. They never feel like they have all the facts, Yeah. So they hesitate. They might never get started.
And they can be pretty critical too, right, if things aren't up to their standard.
Oh, absolutely. They will point out flaws, even when it's maybe not the best time socially, like the father picking out leaks in the house he was trying to sell.
Ouch. So the need for perfection kind of overrides the social cues sometimes.
Exactly. And under pressure, that can come across as overly picky, maybe cold-hearted, even pessimistic or pedantic. They hate approximations, want to really annoy a blue. Just, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
They'll immediately demand the proof, the documentation.
Okay, so we have these 4 distinct styles: red, yellow, green, blue.
Right. And connecting this back to the big picture, the key idea is that conflict often isn't personal malice. It's more like a structural misalignment.
Yeah.
We get into trouble because we expect other people to value the same things we value: speed, relationships, stability, accuracy.
That misalignment really comes out under stress, doesn't it? The source had that amazing story about the bank's company party.
Oh, the party anecdote. Yes, that illustrates it perfectly.
Yeah.
It shows how behavior can just flip or get wildly exaggerated when things get stressful or, well, alcohol is involved.
Right, so the normally cheerful, outgoing yellow salespeople got all moody and philosophical.
Yeah, sitting on the steps, apparently pondering the meaning of life, total flip. And at the same time, the usually reserved, super meticulous blue credit manager.
He ended up dancing on the table telling dirty jokes, acting like a yellow.
Exactly. It was chaos. But the most telling part, maybe,
Was the greens, the quiet administrators.
backed by, liquid courage and shared frustration, they finally confronted their super aggressive Red Bank director about his management style.
And he actually fled the party, the red.
First one out the door. It just shows how stress and other factors can really amplify our core tendencies, or sometimes even flip them completely.
Which brings us back to adaptation being key. It sounds easy, just adapt, but switching your natural style must take real conscious effort.
It absolutely does.
Right.
So let's maybe boil it down. What's the #1 priority for actually connecting with each style?
Okay, good idea. So for reds, you got to be
Hmm.
quick, right? Determined, direct.
Absolutely. Stick to the facts, the results, skip the fluff. If a red asks how your daughter is doing.
The answer's great. End
Yeah,
of story. Not the whole saga about her school play. Match their pace.
perfect. Now for yellows.
Fun, positivity, build that relationship, avoid the spreadsheets, the nitty-gritty details they'll tune out instantly.
Right. And flattery. It generally works.
Yeah.
They need that ego boost. But criticism.
Do it privately and be ready for them to either change the subject or like completely forget you even said anything critical by the next day.
Exactly. Okay, greens. How do you approach them?
Security, stability, think about the group. You need to plan things out for them. Explain the how, the process, not just the goal.
And if you have to give feedback.
Don't talk about efficiency loss. Talk about feelings, relationships. Your action made the team feel X, or it makes me feel sad. Appeal to that relational core. That's what gets through the passive resistance.
Spot on. And finally, blues.
Preparation is everything. Bring the data, the facts, the documentation. Be specific.
Yeah, if there's a budget issue, don't say it costs too much. Say.
The project took exactly 16.5 hours longer than planned, costing us precisely $4,125. Something like that. They respect logic, evidence, no generalizations.
Perfect. That's the core of adapting.
So when we wrap this all up, what does it mean? That entrepreneur, sure, wasn't actually surrounded by idiots. He was surrounded by different kinds of people, all valuable, just different. And this framework, red, yellow, green, blue, it just gives you the decoder ring, lets you figure out if someone's rushing ahead for results like a red, or for fun like a yellow, or if they're hanging back, seeking stability like a green, or quality like a blue.
Exactly. And the ultimate goal here isn't just about diagnosing everyone else. It's really about self-awareness. It's often way easier to see the flaws in others, right? Like the blue who spots every single mistake everyone else makes. But the crucial lesson is understanding how your strengths, say, that red efficiency, how that very strength can become a massive drawback in the wrong situation, like if you're trying to manage a team of greens who need stability, not just speed.
Right. It comes back to that formula. Behavior is a function of your personality interacting with the surrounding factors. You might have a core style, sure, but learning to adjust based on those surrounding factors, that's what makes someone a genuinely good communicator.
So maybe here's a final thought to chew on. We talked about how pressure exaggerates behavior. Think about your stress response. When the pressure's on, do you become more aggressive? Do you withdraw and sulk? Do you become passive? Or do you get hyper-focused on tiny details, maybe overly critical? What does that stress reaction tell you about your own underlying foundational color profile? Really thinking about that. Well, that's the first and maybe the most important step towards communicating better with everyone.